Now, painting small studies on location is one of the best ways you can improve your work. So come along with me on a recent painting trip I took into the Rocky Mountains, and I'll show you one of my favorite exercises when I'm painting plein air. Not only is it fun, takes the stress off of painting plein air, but I'm able to generate a lot of source material for paintings I can do back in my studio. Now be sure to watch till the very end, where I'll show you the painting, finished and up close, and I'll also talk about the palette.
Crashed in 2008 and
Oh, well, it sure is beautiful out here today. What I'm going to try to do, or what I want to do today, is just get some notes here, some ideas for other paintings. I'm not looking to finish a painting. And in fact, what I'll try to do here is just work quickly. I'm going to section off my painting panel here, which I guess is an 11 by 14. And just make it into quadrants. And those aren't even accurate, but that's okay. So I camped here last night. Oh, need my coffee. Camp coffee. I tell you what, no matter where I go or the weather, a good cup of coffee in the morning, that's the solution. Just hear the birds. So the sun's just come up. I woke up about 5:50 this morning. It was too cold to want to get out of my sleeping bag. I sleep in my camper in the back of my truck because I can take my truck four-wheel drive. I'm up on a four-wheel drive road, top of a hill. Nobody around, national forest. And so I slept great, but I didn't want to get out of the bed at 5:50 in the morning. So I've got some, curtains, opened up the curtains and looked out the window, just laid there in bed looking at the eastern sky here as the sun was coming up. And gosh, so beautiful. So of course I got up about 6:30, made some coffee, and in the meantime, since getting up and actually setting up, now the sun's peeked up over the ridge here. But I made some mental notes of what that scene looked like because I wanted to capture some of it while it's fresh here. Now, even though I'm not looking at it directly, I'm looking at the stuff, but the light's changed. I'm going to try to just paint from my memory there and get some of those notes down. And this is a really useful tool here because a lot of these sunrise, sunset type of situations, you can't capture that quick. So sometimes it's better, rather than to rush to paint and have a failed painting because by the time you get a quarter of the way through, the light's changed. Sometimes the better approach is to just, to sit there and just peacefully take mental notes of the scene. And the questions I ask myself are, what are the changes in value between the mountain and the sky? How much darker are the trees than the background mountain? How much darker are the trees than the background sky? What's the overall chroma of the scene? Where's the highest chroma? Where's it kind of dull chroma? How light is my lightest light? How dark's my darkest dark? All those relationships. Then I have those cemented in my mind here, and I think I can capture that memory. So let's try. The sky was very pale. And then the mountains were quite a bit darker. I'm using some of that cool gray just to get a more neutralized blue right from the start, adding to that a little ultramarine, and I even have some phthalo out here. The one thing I noticed this morning was that the blue of the ridgeline across the way was, kind of had this, what I would call an electric blue to it, just a little bit, but relative to the dark trees in front of it, I could definitely feel that. It was lightened and tinted, I should say, with white. But the value difference between the ridgeline and the sky is probably the greatest. So I don't know if I have it exactly right now. I don't need to be too fussy about it. I'm not really worried about getting the drawing right. I do want to get the feel for it. But again, those color notes and relationships are the most important thing here. So the other thing this morning was that there was a beautiful band of kind of yellow-green light coming over the top here. Of course. So let me see if I can get that, because I could see that in a large painting being a design element. I'm going to go with this Michael Harding bright yellow. And I'm going to take my brush, and it's kind of got this yellow on it as well, and I'm going to bring it up into the sky color to try and remind me of that effect it was having on the entire sky. And notice on this little size here, I don't have to spend a lot of time to get an area done. And I don't want to needle it so that I'm trying to worry about too many details. I want the feel there, and just with those brush strokes, even though those wouldn't be final brush strokes in a studio painting, they tell me everything I need to know. From this study. Now the colors in the morning, this light in the morning is very, I don't know, soft. And it's cool. It's a cool light. In the evening you get the warm light. And of course, right along the ridge there is really white. It's not quite the effect I remember though when I put it too white. So I'm going to go back with the yellow, bring that yellow in a little bit more. And just tickle that edge there to integrate it into the sky. So yeah, that's got the feel. There it is. And then the other major element were the trees. A little chipmunk. The other major element were the trees, and they were quite a bit darker. Okay, so I'm going to test right on my palette here this dark I've made. I've got my little pool here of sky, the ridgeline and the mountain, and then this dark of the trees. And I'm just going to kind of test right on there if I feel like that's correct. Seems pretty good. Looks really dark on the palette, but let's give it a try. Now I'm going to look out there and just get the idea of a few of these trees. Now I am going to take time here to just capture a few trees, almost like they're portraits, because it's too easy to just generalize a tree, what we think a tree looks like, what I think a tree looks like. And I don't want to do that. I think the trees have a lot of interest. And deserve the time to actually capture what they really, the shapes and forms as they really look. You might say that doesn't even look like a tree. That's all right. I'm okay with that. It all comes together. It will become an illusion, and your brain will tell you that these are trees. Huh. Look at that. That guy painted trees. But really, I'm just getting the big clumps, as masses of pine boughs. I guess we tend to think of a tree as a Christmas tree type of shape. But nope, not so often. Okay, so there are some dark spots, some really dark darks in the center of this where the foliage is pretty heavy. I guess pine needles are still considered foliage. And I only need a couple to suggest that. I could build this out a little bit more, but I think what I'm going to do is, as the trees go off into the distance, ever so slightly they are turning bluer and cooler. So I see a couple of those off here. Capture this guy. This tree off in the distance has a definite upturn to its branches there. I like that. So a little flick of the wrist there to capture some of those. And then I kind of lose it down into the branches of other things. Okay, so that's a darker tree. They're closer to me here, and this is a little bit further off in the distance. It's gotten a little bit lighter and bluer, maybe. And then we'll go out a little bit further there. We've got all of these trees that kind of become the forest. Now the trick is here that I want, these trees are getting lighter and cooler as they go off into the background, but they were still quite a bit darker than that distant ridge. And then they just kind of went into a mass. And I think I might even go a little more violet in there. I forgot about the violet that I saw this morning. So I put a little on my palette here, and I just saw it and realized, yep, I'm forgetting the violet in those distant trees that I thought was pretty cool. And that kind of seemed to get more violet as we got further down into the masses of the trees. I think that might be all the different red pine trunks of the trees and stuff. I'm not really sure. Well, I should probably put some trunks in there a little bit, just to remember. You know, if you really need a very straight line, you could also use the edge of your palette knife. Scoop up a little bit of paint and come in and do something like that. And then down as you get into these areas here, where you're down in looking in the forest, there's a lot of like, and they're cool in value, but they're these dark little pockets where the light's just not getting to. And they're interesting shapes, so if you take a minute and just study them and try to capture the little shapes. Okay, so this one's nearly done, believe it or not. Yeah, I don't really need to mess with anything there. So I think what I'm still maybe missing a little bit of is that electric blue feel in that distant hill. So I'm going to go back into my white, my phthalo, and go back to my subject a little bit, looking at that. And the other place you can really make this apparent is to go right up against some of your darks there and carve out some shapes again. And that'll reinforce. Again, I'm not really worried about my brushwork too much, just getting my colors and values pretty good here. Okay, so that's it, 15 minutes. I'm going to spend today just looking at different little scenes and capturing color notes and ideas maybe that can go into my studio work. Back for more coffee. You know, the other good thing about setting up at a place, sometimes we look for the big vista, you know, the monumental painting to paint. And I'll drive and drive and drive looking for the best view, you know, the big painting I can see over a fireplace or something, right? But, and that's fine too. But it's kind of nice to just take the pressure off sometimes. Find a place that's got, you know, a bunch of spectacular, but nothing in particular. And this is where I love being. I love being in the mountains, in the high country. No one's around, it's quiet, the breeze through the trees. This is amazing. It really rejuvenates me and charges my batteries again. I love being up here. And here's the finished study. It's really about the relationships. The two areas circled here, for example, that relationship of the sky, the value and the color of it, with the color and the value of that background. Really important, and I'm able to capture that. It's also a reminder that trees have unique shapes and have fun with that. And lastly, my value plan, from the lightest elements to the darkest ones. Here's the palette of colors I like to use. I do this in the field and in the studio. For this demonstration though, I did add phthalo blue and quinacridone magenta. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope that you see how important it is sometimes to take the pressure off yourself and not try to complete a finished painting, but tell yourself you're just going out there to study, to get some color notes and some value notes. These things are vital to take back into your studio for finished paintings anyway. So enjoy yourself, have fun, and get some source material. Now, if you want to see those other 3 paintings I did on that day, I'm going to release a shorter video on each of those. So until next time, I really hope you get out there and paint, and I wish you the best.